Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final event of HIGER, a research and innovation project of the Interreg Europe program. Today's event has been named Getting HIGER with Innovation and will be focused to share experiences and good practices to the management and implementation of regional policies designed to promote innovation projects under the collaboration between research centers, industries, and public authorities. During more than 4 years, 8 European institutions have been collaborating in this project with the aim to improve the innovation framework and the smart specialization strategy of different European regions. The objective of the project, Finance for the Interreg Europe program, was to share and exchange good practices to achieve innovative models of public-private partnerships suitable to mobilize investments in smart specialization areas and fostering an entrepreneurial discovery process. This has been achieved through the analysis of different policies instruments from one of each region involved in the project to promote the innovation projects under public-private partnerships. The partners of the project evaluated these instruments and identified which are their main weaknesses, developing a learning process to overcome the main obstacles around them and enhancing a better and more efficient implementation. Today, in this event, we will listen to the main results of the HIGER project, and we will share the best practices and actions of each region that have helped to strengthen the competitiveness of the business and the regional economic development. Specifically, different experience will be shared from Catalonia, from the central region of Macedonia, Lithuania, Sweden, and Slovenia. After, we will discuss how to foster innovation investment with representatives of local administrations, clusters, companies, research or technology centers, and universities. And now, before explaining the project results, let me introduce you and give the word to Ms. Anna Mihaljevic, Policy Officer at Interreg Europe, who will present some news of the future Interreg Europe program. Anna, please be very welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I hope you can all hear me and see me properly, including my presentation for this morning. It's my pleasure to be here with you this morning, even though I think we can all agree that it would have been much nicer to be on site and have a normal, old normal type of conference, but I'm afraid, and something tells me that we're going to have to be a bit more patient with these alternative means for the time being. Again, it's my pleasure to be here with you. My name is Anna Mihaljevic. I am a policy officer at the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat, responsible for the HIGER project, and the reason why I'm here with you this morning is twofold in a way. On one side, I am here to help wrap up this very successful project, and on the other side, I'm here to actually celebrate the achievements of the project. So in the next very few minutes, unfortunately, according to the agenda, I'm going to give a brief overview of some of the facts and figures that we're proud of on the program level. And I will also try to give you some information that you can potentially benefit from, even if you're currently not one of the project partners on one of our projects. So without further ado, let's get to it. For starters, for those who don't know, and something tells me that there are not many of those with us today, Interreg Europe is an interregional cooperation program funding projects that aim at improving policies at the regional level. And the way they improve their policies is through learning from other regions. In this programming period, during four calls, Interreg Europe has approved 258 projects in total, with a total of 322 million euro. In those 258 projects, we have more than 2,000 project partners from 30 countries, because our program also has Norway and Switzerland as partner states. Those more than 2,000 partners cover 88% of EU's NUTS regions, and they are approximately 25% of them are managing authorities. In terms of our results, here are some also interesting facts and figures. Out of 3,513 good practices that our projects have already identified, 2/3 of them, around 2,000, are of such good quality that they could already be included in our policy learning platform, a good practice database. And even though out of the total number of the projects, only 158 have even finished phase 1 of the project, the program has already reached its targets as indicated in the cooperation program. And the way we measure those targets is through indicators such as staff with increased capacity and the number of action plans that the projects have produced. And now in terms of results, which is one of the reasons why we're here today, 146 of our projects have already reported 484 policy changes. The way we measure those policy changes is, among other things, in terms of financial impact. So if you translate that into a bit of money talk, that means that through those 146 projects, we have invested 185 million euro, which means that the impact of the policy changes already achieved has been a total of 882 million euro, which means that each invested euro through an Interreg Europe project, the effect has been more than fourfold, if that's a proper expression in English, meaning that 1 euro invested has impacted more than 4 euros on the regional level. Apart from the project, and something that sets Interreg Europe apart from other programs, is the second pillar of our program, which is the policy learning platform. The point of the policy learning platform is actually to work on sharing and transferring the knowledge we have acquired through the projects to a community of over 18,000 members. So apart from the good practice database that I've already mentioned, which is open to everyone to submit their good practices, to consult what other regions are doing throughout Europe, there is also a very interesting service that might be of interest to actually everyone probably participating in our conference today, which is a service called Peer Reviews. Peer Reviews is a tailored free service that our thematic experts offer. And the way it looks is that through 2 days of intense work, our thematic experts, in cooperation with selected peers, work on solving the host region's problem. We often publish information on peer reviews and calls for peer reviews. So this is something that you're very welcome to check out on our website. And now for the most common elephant in the room, unfortunately, in the last year. Of course, I'm talking about the COVID-19 crisis, which has been more than challenging, not only for our projects, but also for the program in general. As you can imagine, this current crisis has been very challenging for interregional cooperation in general, because most of what we do is actually based on networking, on actually meeting people and exchanging experience. But on the other hand, if there's something that the COVID-19 crisis has taught us, is the importance of cooperation. So we kept going. And not only that we kept going, we took a bit of a proactive stance as well. So for starters, we created a subsection on our website where we distribute information dedicated to COVID-19 response, apart from the good practices that I've already mentioned, which can also be accessed through the subsection of the website, where we publish good practices which are specifically targeting tackling the consequences of this crisis. We also publish possibilities for online thematic activities, for some tailored support from our thematic experts. And you can also just find news and events of interest. So I also invite you to check out this part of our website to find out some more precise information. And now for a bit of a brief, yet still exclusive news from the side of the program, as a very concrete way for us to give a very concrete contribution to tackling the crisis. We are currently in the process of planning a new call, which will be a bit of an exceptional COVID-19 dedicated call, which will be open to all of our approved projects. But due to the different phases that the projects are in, as you know very well, this type of call would be primarily relevant to first and second call projects. The focus will be on primarily technically, as things are now, the focus will be on extending the duration of the current projects in order to give them an opportunity to focus on exchange of experience in the COVID-19 context. Also, apart from exchange of experience activities, there will be also opportunities, if justified and in line with the terms of reference, there will be opportunities for pilot actions. I will not say much more at this point due to the fact that monitoring committee has still not made a final decision about the call. It's expected in March. So at this point, I can only tell you just to keep an eye on your emails and to keep an eye on our website to see what the application procedure is and when exactly will the call be approved and published. And now, since the program is nothing without its projects, I will give a brief overview of the thematic objective that we are talking about today with the HIGHER project. But before that, as you can see in this very simple pie chart, as you know, we have the 4 thematic objectives, and the one we're talking about today is thematic objective 1, research and innovation. But apart from that, as you can see here, the distribution between the number of projects between the 4 thematic objectives is more or less equal. In terms of the topic where HIGHER is located, we're talking about cooperation and innovation delivery. The total number of projects in this topic is 53. As you can tell here on this little map, the majority of the cooperation is kind of condensed in Northwestern Europe, which is not surprising considering the topic. Out of those 53 projects, 13 are dedicated more closely to the research and innovation strategies for smart specialization, and 7 of which are dedicated to governance. So apart from HIGHER, there's also Monitory, Cerelos, Increase, Beyond EDP, and some other projects that you can also see on our website when you're searching for HIGHER. When it comes to the results of this very lengthy and intense exchange that HIGHER has had, I will not, of course, talk about the results a lot because I think that's why we're here today. And I think the host will be focusing more on that aspect. But from the perspective of the program, we can definitely confirm that there has been an active contribution from the side of the project through participation in events such as the European Week of Regions and Cities, through organizing their own events such as the HIGHER Innovation Summit, participation in thematic workshops, publishing good practices, being proactive on social media, but also definitely not least important, HIGHER has also achieved some policy changes, which I'm pretty sure that they will be explaining in a bit more detail a bit later. And now, a few information about the future. When I say the future, unfortunately, I can't tell much more apart from what's going on the level of Interreg Europe. In May 2018, things did not really start very optimistically for Interreg Europe because it was not present in the first draft of the European Commission's draft regulation. But on the intervention of the European Parliament and the Council, Interreg Europe was back in the regulation already next year. And from then we have started our programming process, which is very much still ongoing. But good news is that I can confirm that the programming process is going in a very good direction. In terms of finalizing the budget, in terms of finalizing the cooperation program, and all of these technical prerequisites that we have in order to start the program. So we are expecting the new program to start towards the end of 2021. But in order to keep track of the more precise information for those who are interested, we also have a bit of a separate section on the website following the programming process. So you're also welcome to check that out. In terms of how the future program will look like, hopefully we will also be cooperating in the future programming period. Some of the key features will definitely remain, such as that Interreg Europe will remain a pan-European program with a similar objective, meaning changing regional development policies through those who are responsible for the development policies. The means to achieve this type of objective will remain the same, which means that the focus will still be on capacity building. However, there are some changes which I think will be welcome from the side of the project. First of all, there will be a softened or a lightened focus on structural funds, meaning that at least 50% of the policy instruments will have to be structural fund programs. Since as our projects, the program also learns by doing, we are hoping that in the next programming period, there will be more opportunities for pilot actions, meaning that there should be more opportunities for projects to actually implement and test the concepts that they have learned from cooperation with other regions. And one also important change, unlike the current programming period where we have those pie chart for thematic objectives, in the future programming period, the focus should be on a single priority. We have concluded, which is also something that COVID-19 has pushed us in a way, in order to reflect the core of the program better, which is capacity building, it would be better to focus on a single priority, which would be capacity building. In practical terms, instead of having the set in advance for thematic objectives, focusing on one single, more loose thematic objective will give us an opportunity to be a bit more reactive or reflexive of the current moment, which we also had to do when this current crisis hit. I will leave you here. This is all I wanted to tell you this morning. Thank you very much again for having me. I will stay here with you until the rest of the event. So in case there are any questions in the meantime, you can either, I guess, write to me in chat. I don't know if that will be technically possible, but you can always, of course, contact us at Interreg Europe. Just a final thank you and congratulations to Higher. Congratulations to the entire partnership for wrapping up this lengthy project. And I'm definitely looking forward to hearing all of the exchanges. Thank you very much and have a good day and have a good exchange, actually.
For sure, they will contact you, Anna, in case they didn't. Thank you very much for all the information shared. And well, let's now enter in the topics of the day, and let's do so by taking a look on Higher's main achievements. To get started, I want to introduce you Dr. Juanfran Sangüesa, coordinator of the project, who will address his presentation on the main outputs achieved by the project. Dr. Sangüesa, very welcome, and your turn. Maybe you are on mute.
Okay, sorry
Right now
for
we can
that.
hear you. Yes. Thank you
Okay.
very much, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for this introduction. Thank you, Anna, also for setting up the floor regarding the program. So in this first presentation, I will give you a brief overview of the higher project, so you know the context and also the main achievement we have obtained during this last almost 5 years of the project. So we will start with some project facts. So as you know, the higher project has been funded by the Interreg Europe program with a total budget of almost 1.5 million euros and a duration of almost 5 years, starting in 2016. So the project focus on obtaining better policy instruments for high innovation projects in different European regions. And so with this aim, we set up this overall objective, so to achieve innovative models focusing on public-private partnerships that will be suitable to mobilize investment in target specialization areas, and also fostering entrepreneurial discovery processes in order to address different policy instruments addressing the risk-free in these different participating regions. So to achieve this overall objective, we have set up 4 main sub-objectives. Of course, the first one was to set up a learning process, starting from as you will see, from the identification and exchange of good practices related to structural funds programs management, to interregional, transnational actions, different types of priorities, project selections, governance. You will see different examples during this event in the next presentation. Also, we wanted to support the implementation of the different action plans targeting the policy instruments and smart specialization areas in these regions. A very important also objective for us was to be sure that we were promoting the engagement of all actors, so adopting a quadruple helix approach in order to improve the policy instruments. So for that, we make sure that we were including not only the public R&D and academia, the research and the industry part, but also, of course, the administration and the society. And finally, the last objective was to promote also the role of public administration as a driver of innovation demand, for example, through the public procurement needs. So to do so, we had the chance to have a very strong consortium with 9 partners from from 8 different countries. So that ensured also a good coverage, since we had representatives from Northern, Southern, Eastern, and Western Europe. So you can see here that we had 2 managing authorities from Italy, but we also had partners from Spain, Portugal, Slovenia, Greece, Sweden, Lithuania, and at the beginning, originally, we also had a partner from UK, but unfortunately, our partners from Cambridge had to leave the project after 2 years, so they participated in the initial exchange of experience, and we are very grateful for that, because they shared very interesting good practices, but they were not able to develop and implement an action plan later. In terms of methodology, we used the methodology similar to most Interreg Europe projects. So with a first phase focused on interregional learning. So first contact with the stakeholders to analyze the good practices in each region, then doing a cross-analysis and identifying and highlighting these good practices, then sharing them with the other regions, so they can identify the the ones that could be adapted to their own realities. And of course, we started this first phase with the drawing up and design of the different action plans. Of course, this first phase lasts until September 2018, and then we have devoted the last 2 years of the project to the monitoring of this action plan implementation. As results, I will not go into the details because you will have different presentations later with more details on the good practices and on the results obtained by each region. But we wanted to highlight that we have identified 10 good practices covering different topics. So you can see here the examples, and you have here at the end the link if you want the full details of these good practices. We had good practices related to cross-border and transnational collaboration, other good practices related to monitoring system for the risk-free, other good practices also related to building multidisciplinary, multi-actor association as core place for the risk-free. That's the case in Slovenia with the SRIPs or the risk-free cat communities in Catalonia. And so with this panel of good practices, we were able to build the different action plans. We want also to highlight that we had more than 300 stakeholders involved in the different activities of the project. So starting by 20 local regional meetings in order to define the regional strategy. This involvement has been ensured from the very beginning of the project until the end, until the implementation of the action plans. We also had stakeholders involved in 4 thematic workshops focused on different priorities. For example, we had one on agri-food and tourism in Greece, another one about innovation public procurement in Italy, and we have 2 focusing on a very hot topic and transversal topic, which is circular economy. You will see later also a presentation from our colleagues in Slovenia describing how from the institutions they have raised a very interesting initiative related to circular economy. We also had 3 high-level innovation summits and 4 study visits that were useful for the partnership, since we were able to know from first-hand success stories and visit science and business in cooperation valleys in these 4 different regions. So what was important for us is to ensure that we had representatives from the quadruple helix. So we had large companies, SMEs, research development centers, universities, already existing public-private associations, and of course, public administrations, including policymakers. Also, I wanted to highlight that we designed 8 action plans, and 7 of them were implemented, at least partially, because of course the COVID situation also had an impact on the different action plans. So some of them were only partially implemented. But here you can see that these action plans have allowed the different regions to introduce innovative participation processes in current instruments. You will see that with example in Catalonia, to improve the risk-free monitoring processes and the entrepreneurial discovery process. You will see also the example in Central Macedonia. Then the internationalization of the SRIPs in Slovenia, new public-private partnerships based on the S3 priorities, and new methods to monitor instrument efficiency, and also the establishment of completely new from zero of a risk-free monitoring system in Portugal, in the North region. We'll see also the examples later. And finally, unfortunately, the action plan from the Stockholm region couldn't be implemented, but this experience has been useful anyway, because it has allowed us to identify the main barriers for risk-free implementation. So here, as one of the conclusions, we wanted to highlight, even if it's not the initially expected result, this experience in Stockholm has been useful to identify barriers related to actor engagement, to leadership, especially political commitment and timing, and you will see also a presentation later. But in terms of conclusions, I want to end this presentation by highlighting that we had direct impact on 4 target policy instruments, 4 of the initial targets. Of course, we can ensure that all the action plans will have an influence on the next programming period starting this year in the different regions. We also succeed in having a high stakeholder involvement, so we can confirm that we have adopted this quadruple helix approach, and we have also obtained improvements on monitoring systems and governance and the entrepreneurial discovery process in the regions. So that's all. I thank you for your attention, and I hope you will enjoy the next presentations, where you will have more details on the specific actions we have done during this project and the results we have obtained. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Sangüesa. It was a pleasure having you here. After this first introduction on the activity developed by HIGER during last years, it's now time to see some examples and good practices to design innovation policies that are taking place in Europe right now. Let's start with our first speaker, who is Mr. Jordi Serratosa, Head of Business Development at UAB Research Park, who will introduce us to their analysis of the RIS3CAT Communities Instrument, the research and innovation strategy defined by the Generalitat de Catalunya, and an action plan oriented to increase the presence of social challenge and social innovation in the community's policy instrument. Mr. Serratosa, whenever you want.
Now you can hear me?
Yes, you are on air right now, Mr. Serratosa.
Now I can share. I can start sharing the screen. Just a second. Screen. Okay. Now can you see the screen? No, not yet. Yes, this is working. It takes long. Now you can see the screen or not? Yes, okay, then you can see it. Okay, now you can see. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to explain you the situation in Catalonia and the experience we have worked in the context of HIGER project. This experience is about to introduce the 4 helix and the social innovation and participation methodology into the RIS3CAT communities. RIS3CAT is the research innovation strategy made in Catalonia, and it was already organized, and we were focusing in a specific group, which name is InnoAPAT. APAT is a kind of thing related to food, innovation in food could be the translation in a wide sense, taking into account that we are considering all the parameters in smart food, basically, and sustainable objectives of the United Nations. There was constituted about 48 entities and private companies and academia and industry, but in this community it was a lack of presence in administration and society participation, and it was the idea to say how we could innovate a methodology. Taking into account that the research park, we are carrying on a number of activities, all them in different areas, but all them with participation of the society. Then it was the 48 entities. They have a budget of 12 million euros, and they get about 7 projects, and you can see the 7 projects and the team leaders from every project. And what is important to remark is the identified lack of societal participation. Then, based on these, and to introduce new integrative approach of the society into this process of innovation, it was proposed to this community as well to use a number of tools that we were using in a kind of flow chart. We are having already these activities, which is a laboratory of ideas, a program of training for generation of ideas for startups and new companies they want to create. We have competitions on these ideas in order to give some prizes, and we have all these packages were already done, but not in the sequential way. And the idea was to take advantage of that in order to introduce into the smart food and innovation process of a sequential process, logical, rational. And we were classifying these at first as the design thinking process, introducing all the 4 ELIX in 3 labs, 3 workshops, which is empathization, which is contact with the society directly, without any other industry or administration of societal civil. The second workshop in laboratory of ideas was the co-creation, already implementing all the 4 ELIX, and the last one is the last workshop of laboratory of ideas was the validation of such challenges identified by the other 2 previous workshops. Then after that, it was started the course, which is a training of 2.5 months, which is basically a number of persons which are willing to develop from different areas of science or private or even societal, but the aim was to develop and to train them how to build an idea into a reality. This was followed by a prize, a competition, and where is winning the winning projects are having the possibility to go to a living lab. And the university offered this possibility for the 3 first winners of this competition. Okay, let's go. So we were also introducing a branch. A branch is something that we do it to introduce a subject and introduce some projects. With good success, as an example, with discussion about 60 persons. And it opened a little bit the discussion for further developments and is obviously previously to the laboratory of ideas. Another part of the activities is a kind of open innovation forum that there's another activity which is not linked with the 4 ELIX, but I mentioned just to keep in mind. I would like to show you a 1-minute video about those activities that we were carrying out in Research Park. And I asked the control if they can put this video on, because I was told that they were introduced. Thank you. Okay. May I continue, or there is a lapsus between the video and this presentation? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So just a small overview of the results of this plan is you have in the left side of the screen the branch of 60 stakeholders, which is on the top like cloud before everything. So we identified this as smart food with 4 challenges, which was food waste and natural food or nutrition, personalized food and nutrition and diet. Another one was antimicrobial resistance, and it was as well the plastic contamination. There was the four big ideas, and they were working on in the laboratory of ideas in these 3 workshops that I explained. They provide 20 challenges supported by the society, which were very close from the academia. So it's incredibly interesting to see how society has a precise idea what is needed and coincides with most of the objectives of the academia. Sometimes it's good to have this support and this confirmation. So we had 20 social challenges related to this smart food. From this generation, they were presented 6 solutions, and from these 6 solutions, there were 3 selected and 1 winner, which was about Celupac, which is the name of the company, of the startup. And unfortunately, we had to start when the COVID was starting. So it requires to prototype and to work. The prototype was already designed, but the Living Lab was conceived as a place where they can put hands on the project and to realize and materialize the ideas. And unfortunately, this has stopped given the restrictions. So thank you very much. I'm open for, I understand that there may be many questions on how this process was going on. So thank you very much, and I give the floor back to the control.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Serratosa. Let's continue with the next speaker, who is Mr. Mantas Vilis. Mr. Vilis is a director at Lithuanian Innovation Center, and he will present us the instrument for the development and implementation of innovation support services in Lithuania. So, Mr. Vilis, whenever you want, the audience is yours. Good morning. Welcome, Mr. Vilis.
Yes, sorry for that. I think I'm online now. Yes. Here it is. Thank you so much for this miraculous possibility to join you here for the really important and high-level event that kind of concludes and shares the best of higher achievement. That we had plenty of them through the way of improving innovation policies. Here today, I would like to share some insights and some also good practices related to the things that we achieved here in Lithuania. When it comes to improvement of innovation policies, yes, I do represent the Lithuanian Innovation Center, a specific institution that supports innovation here in Lithuania. And also supports the policy building process, because our shareholders are the ministries, economy and innovation, education and science, so two key stakeholders for innovation policies here in Lithuania. And we not only deliver the services, but we also help policymakers to improve these services. And I start from the intro, from this topicality kind of point of view, that the Lithuanian innovation ecosystem is rather unique. I mean, in terms of European Innovation Scoreboard, yes, we are not yet the European leaders for innovation, but we are going steadily there. So Lithuania is a rather unique country because it grows continuously over the last 10 years in terms of innovation performance. So rather unique country in Europe, and this is not an accident. This is not a surprise. This continuous and steady growth towards the innovation is guaranteed by the efficient innovation system, an innovation system that is actually highly performing here in Lithuania. And by innovation system, I mean not only the innovators themselves, not only the businesses, not only the research institutions that provide the knowledge for the companies, but all the support mechanisms, support institutions that are here in Lithuania. And by this, I mean the innovation centers, technology parks, agencies, funding agencies, and so on. So all this flora, all this innovation system that actually supports the innovation in the country is crucial. And due to the high level of interplay between all these players, the innovation actually happens. So when it comes to innovation system as such, yes, we are not somehow different as other countries in Europe. Yes, we have the technology parks, we have some agencies that support innovation financially through the services and so on. And what was the status quo that we have had before starting this instrument by the new successful instrument that I'm presenting right now? We have had and still continue to have some scatterness, some sort of the scatterness of the resources allocated for innovation support. I mean that there are a number of institutions that support innovation. There are a number of players in this game. And as always, the matter of the consolidating the resources, the matter of jointly achieving some greater goals for innovation in the country is really topical and relevant. So how to team up, how to merge the efforts to support innovation? That was the starting point before going into the instrument. And a part of the technical institutional consolidation, every country, I have no doubt, when it comes to innovation policies, have the discussion on, shouldn't we consolidate all the institutions for the innovation support in the country? Shouldn't we have one institution supporting it, and so on? Scatterness of the resources is always a bit of an issue. But a new concept or a new paradigm was taken in this respect, in solving quickly and impact-oriented way the challenge that I just mentioned. Consolidating all the institutions in the innovation system, not through the institutional merge, but through the project or through the instrument from the structural funds for ERDF, by creating the instrument that actually unites all the players in the system for the common goal and for the common activities to support innovation. So basically, the instrument that I am presenting is the instrument that supports activities of public service providers. By service providers, I mean financial support, soft support, but mainly all the support services that are delivered through the different institutions like technology parks, innovation centers, and so on. And this instrument enables all these players to act, together, to deliver the innovation support services, jointly for the business and research community in the country. And the key success factors that why this instrument generated so much impact that the key success factors that I kind of highlighted is that we moved away the discussion a bit from the institutional discussions. You know, should this agency take the responsibility, or that agency, or that park, and so on. We moved away, focus from institutions to the services themselves, and focused all these services mainly for the better successful client journey. Client journey, I mean the growth of the companies that we have in mind, the innovation projects that could be born in the country. So we, you know, team up all the institutions around innovation in Lithuania for the better and more successful client journey. Also with the clear impact orientation. So all the institutions, they are not just together, but they work together for better results, for better, you know, success stories, and with the clear KPIs per year, per period, for the client innovations and the client growth cases and so on. And key focus was also that we together support the innovation and support the companies by tapping into the global value chains and connecting into the, you know, international networks. So that means that the services, all the services that we deliver together, they have a strong focus on internationalization. So having all these factors available, this instrument was started, you know, already like what, 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago or so. And through this instrument, all the agencies, as I mentioned, teamed up for the delivery of the services. And I would quickly illustrate what does it mean, because, you know, talking about the instrument, not touching the case, it's like a bit hard. So I will quickly tell the story of one client journey of one of the clients that used the services of the instrument to some extent. I take one of the clients that I know very well, one of the startups, one of the early stage, you know, businesses that came to the project, came to the initiative for the support was like 4 entrepreneurs that have an idea to open the car related data registers to the society and to introduce the first blockchain-based car register. I mean, through that register, the company offers the service to discover full data about the car that you are going to buy, because the car fraud, data fraud is rather high in Europe. So they they thought about introducing the new service. So they came to the project with this initial idea. So they, at the beginning, through the instrument support, as there were a number of players involved, they used the incubation services of one of the technology parks, also some accelerator. This is all the services listed that have been delivered through the instrument support, together by a number of institutions involved. So they received some support in building the credibility, because it was a bit radical idea, hard to implement, and so on. So through the incubation accelerator services and so on, they got some support in getting some credibility and feasibility analysis done. Then when they start to grow and they register the business from other innovation agency, they received some intelligence on local legislation, what is the freedom to operate, and so on. When they start to grow even more, they also get some support from the local structural funds for experimentation, new prototype building, and so on. So another agency kicked in, and so on. Later on, when they start to grow even more, when they start to introduce the new product into the new markets, they need some international partners and so on. So they another institution from the Lithuania kicked in with the partnership building services and so on. And basically, all this client journey was, you know, made smooth and available through different public players with the one single entry point. So the client journey at its best was guaranteed for the company. And in 12 months, the product was launched in 16 different countries. Now they grow 30% per month. So that means it's like a really high growth company. And now they employ, right now, I think it's around 50 employees and so on. And this is just an example how all the players in the country could team up for the better, you know, support for innovation, and not even starting the discussion about how to make one institution, but how to make one single service and one entry point for the companies to grow and innovate. So this is the instrument that I was intending to present in a nutshell. Through the project of HIRE, we also, a quick remark, through the project of HIRE, we even improved this instrument to the level that we started to make an impact assessment of this instrument, and also we introduced some new KPIs and new impact assessment approaches to the instrument that benefited the policymakers, the owners of the instrument itself. So it was highly important for us to participate in this international experience exchange, just to even improve it even better, the instrument itself. That was quick presentation. I hope I stick to the time that was allocated, and I'm ready to answer the questions or anything that you have in your mind. Thank you so much.
You were completely on time, Mr. Vilis. Thank you very much for all the clear and interesting information. Let's move forward, and let's move forward on the agenda. And now it's time to talk about the barriers to design a smart specialization strategy. I will now hand over to Ms. Mary Voyen, who will be able to help us and explain us a little bit more about this subject. Ms. Voyen, please be very welcomed, and whenever you want.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, sure. We can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. Excellent. So, hi everyone. My name is Mari, and I'm a research fellow at Nord Reggio. I am joined today by my colleague John Moody, and we will present some of the challenges that we actually had when implementing the Smart Specialization Action Plan in Stockholm. So, first of all, I'm just going to see if this works. John will give you a bit of a quick background on one of the reasons why we joined the HIRE Consortium in the first place, before then I go on to take you through the Stockholm Action Plan very briefly, and then address some of the challenges that we went through. So John, there we go.
Thanks, Mari, and good morning everybody from a very snowy Stockholm here. It actually reminds me of one of the very first HIRE project meetings where the snow was absolutely knee deep, and I think we were all struggling to get around a bit. It makes me feel very nostalgic because we've all had a great time working on this project, actually. So I'd like to go back to the start, actually, and provide some kind of contextual background information on why we got involved in the HIRE project in the first place. Now, for us at Nord Reggio and the Stockholm local authorities, the HIRE project presented a fantastic learning opportunity. Because when we started the project, there was many pre-Brexit moons ago, smart specialization was still a relatively new concept. And that was certainly the case here in Sweden, where not many regions actually had their own strategies, or were at least in the very early stages of developing them. So the Stockholm region itself had no strategy, and it had not even started the process of developing an S3 strategy at all. So the HIRE project was a really good place to start and to learn about how to develop and implement effective S3 strategies, and more than that, to gain more knowledge and understanding about the best practices and best S3 models from around Europe. So at the beginning of the project, we really had four main things that we wanted to get out of our involvement. The first, of course, was to develop Stockholm's first smart specialization strategy. The second thing we wanted to do was increase collaboration between key innovation stakeholders in the Stockholm region. And this is generally because there's a lack of interconnectedness between stakeholders in Stockholm, because there's a lot of large companies who actually have their own research and innovation capacities. So we wanted to create stronger connections between these actors. The third aim was to increase investment in the region. And finally, we also wanted to grow the region's international networks. Now, through our participation in the HIRE project, we certainly think we've achieved many of those things. And the Stockholm Action Plan, which we have put together, definitely lays the foundations for meeting these objectives even further. But as Mari's going to go into a bit more detail about the action plan now, and unfortunately we face several challenges when trying to implement it, and but hopefully, you know, these are challenges we'll be able to overcome in the future. So I'll hand back to Mari now, and she'll tell you a bit more about this.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just going to then quickly give you a background of our action plan. And our action plan actually coincided with an existing governance structure in Stockholm, which was called the Stockholm model. And that was developed by the Structural Funds Partnership in the region, and was then mainly to address sustainable urban development. So essentially this model was already to some extent aligned with the smart specialization objectives by, for example, channeling EU funding, resources to meet regional challenges, incentivize collaboration and encourage synergies between actors, and also to further integrate SMEs into finding these innovative solutions for the regional challenges at hand. So it's quite similar to smart specialization strategies in many ways, but there was still quite a lot of room there for improvement in terms especially of the entrepreneurial discovery process, the involvement of these larger actors that John mentioned, to drive the innovation and R&D and I, and then the identification of new domains. So we looked at the Catalonian RIS3CAT and the Slovenian STRIP model for inspiration, especially because they had this amazing smart specialization policy platforms that facilitates and drive the processes. So we wanted to kind of emulate that in a way. And then also there was already a dormant kind of policy instrument institution in Stockholm called Innovation Stockholm or Innovationskraft Stockholm, where our partner in Haya, the County Administrative Board of Stockholm, was actually part of. So we wanted to use that as a starting point. So together then with the County Administrative Board, we developed our action plan, which was based on then some areas that were already identified by the Innovation Stockholm platform, including, for example, healthcare, life sciences, sustainable housing, and food, ICT, and so on and so forth. And as a research institute, Nordregio was there to be process partners. And I'm just going to show you what the action plan looked like. So this is kind of a diagram of what the action plan, what kind of our thought processes and how we were going about the whole development of a smart specialization strategy. But as John said, and the purpose of our presentation today, we did run into some issues, which I will now outline for you. And they're both complicated and quite simple at the same time, as you will see. Because first of all, we do have actor engagement. That was the first barrier that we ran into. So Stockholm is a big city with loads of SMEs, big actors that would be great to include in smart specialization entrepreneurial discovery processes and what have you, loads of different actors. It's really a European powerhouse of innovation, so to say, and for innovation, it's really good, great alignment, etc. But catching all of these actors is actually quite difficult. So when it comes to the larger actors, as John said, they had maybe their own innovation agendas. Participating in these kind of discovery processes was really required a clarity of concept and also a clear value added, like sort of what's in it for me in terms of developing and participating in these EDPs. And then there was also a problem or a slight problem of funding. So as you know, Stockholm is not one of the lagging regions in Europe, and as smart specialization is kind of conceptualized within the EU cohesion policy, like to sort of balance the playing field between regions, then Stockholm doesn't really get all that much funding for it. And so our partner often said that they actually do regional development funded by cinnamon buns in many ways, so like kind of coffee meetings and morning meetings in that way. And as we all also know that small and medium-sized enterprises do try to keep an eye on their bottom line and don't necessarily have the time to engage in such lengthy processes of developing these domains or like in the EDP process. So unless there is kind of like a really clear benefit for them at the end. But this is not to say that these SMEs or the larger organization wasn't participating in our workshops, because they were, but kind of sustaining that was a bit more challenging. And so with this kind of number of actors in this region, which has such a potential for a plethora of different types of innovations and specializations, we might actually be able to talk of a big city problem to some extent, especially if you look at Stockholm in comparison to some of its Swedish counterparts in, for example, Värmland, which have been able to really kind of gather their main actors and create that strong regional brand. Now, the next issue that we ran into is kind of pertains then to leadership and the lack of political commitment, which is quite clear to us quite early on. That was one of the first things that we ran into. And this is because the authority that was given the task of developing smart specialization strategies didn't really have the mandate actually to act on that as extensively as they otherwise might have wanted to do. So there was plenty of a commitment amongst the staff that were doing this, but as an operating authority, they were kind of dependent on the national green light to move forward. And as we know, smart specialization is a tool essentially circumventing the national level and goes straight on to the regional level. So there was a bit of an issue here of alignment. And then finally, there was also timing. So Stockholm was actually exempt from the ex-ante in smart specialization when it was first introduced, because Stockholm had already developed a regional innovation strategy involving loads of actors. But the difference between the regional innovation strategy that they had developed and smart specialization is the level of granularity. So the smart specialization strategy that we tried to develop was much more focused, much more actionable, rather than having these kind of visions and relatively vague objectives, as we see in the regional action plan. And this has also got to do with the history of how Region Stockholm is engaging with innovation, is quite laissez-faire. And finally, on top of it all, there was an administrative change. So in January 2019, the innovation unit at the County Administrative Board actually moved into a whole new organization called Region Stockholm. And although there seemed to be quite a lot of engagement within the new organization for developing a smart specialization strategy, it was just too new to really get going with anything, because, as you know, administrative shifts do take quite a lot of time. So just to sum up, the lessons learned is that, clarity of concept and the clarity of the value added really matters. What kind of sets this aside for other types of regional innovation policies? Political commitment and leadership matters. Someone needs to be in charge and taking the lead, and we cannot get away from good funding. And then finally, despite all these barriers, we just really want to say that HIRE has been a great experience for us. We really enjoyed working with all our consortium partners and getting inspiration from all of you. And it would also be really interesting to hear from you what your challenges were when it came to your action plans, if time allows. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marie and John, for sharing your experience and all the information. Let's now turn to a presentation of an example of how to drive innovation from outside management authorities. Mr. Igor Kos from the Institute for Circular Economy of Slovenia will talk to you about the case of an innovation in circular economy on city level. So, Mr. Kos, good morning, and whenever you want.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. I will try to summarize basically in a few minutes our development here in Maribor, Slovenia, through following points. So the project starting points, how we organized, of course, governance is the big part of this. So you have to do this part and everything will be visible in the timeline of the project development. And I will try to also present some of the EU projects that we are doing the implementation of the strategy through those projects. So the project starting points were basically in 2015, 2016. We decided that we don't have to have another landfill in our city. We realized that we have material streams. Now people call it this waste, but we call it material streams that are produced in the city on the daily basis. And we want to reuse them for the purposes of the city. This is basically what utility companies that provide services for the citizens are collecting, doing, and through that ownership of these utility companies by municipality, it was maybe a bit easier to get organized and to get things done. What we targeted are urban degraded areas that we established that we have quite a lot of them through development of the integrated sustainable urban development strategy in 2016, 2015, 2016. So we are targeting those areas with our actions. And of course, because we need a close cooperation between public utility companies, citizens, we decided to do this outside of the city administration. In our opinion, city administration with all the rules and the protocols and everything was a bit too tight, controlled environment for such an idea to really be developed. So what we did, you can see it in the left upper corner, we formed a new platform called WeCycle Institute Maribor, which was established by 5 utility companies. So district heating, waste management, city transport, water management, and construction works in the city, so road maintenance and the maintenance of the sewage system, established institute in 2017. We presented the first draft of the circular economy model for the city with the integrated sustainable urban development strategy in 2016, which was based on the 5 utility companies and their line of work, but we added the 6th element, which was space use. So how we are using our space in the city, because on that depends a lot of activities that are possible or are being made difficult. Because of very interesting developments that you will see in the timeline, we then decided to go and write a circular economy strategy for the city, which was done in 2018. It was approved by the City Council also in June 2018, and it is published on the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform in English, so everybody can read it and see what we are actually doing. As you can see, there is a difference. So there is a 7th area added to this strategy. In comparison to the strategic draft in 2016, it was collaborative economy. Now we are currently working already on the update of the strategy because things are developing quite fast. We added food sector. So we now have 8 areas that we are working on, and we connected all our actions to the sustainable development goals of the Agenda 2030. Here are some of the governance documents that we worked on, collaborated with other partners. So the first one, of course, is Strategy for Transition to Circular Economy in the Municipality, which was, as I said, presented to the City Council and adopted by City Council in 2018. We collaborated with the different stakeholders in Slovenia, including former Commissioner for Environment, Janez Potočnik, on creation of the roadmap for Slovenia towards circular economy. Our institute and me personally were involved in the Urban Agenda Partnership for Circular Economy in frame of the Futurium initiative based on the Pact of Amsterdam, where action plan was developed with 12 actions in 3 different topics, so better regulation, better funding, and better knowledge. Those actions are, of course, available, and recently we collaborated with some of the stakeholders on creation of Circular Cities Declaration that was hosted and promoted mainly by ICLEI. And it's available, and I'm encouraging cities that are involved in higher project to take a look at the Circular City Declaration and to become part of the community. Now to the timeline. As I said, 2014, 15, 16 is time for development to get all the data, basic data together to see how things could be organized. In 2017, you can see start of the institute, and from that point, all the activities went a bit more intensive, to be honest. For me personally, till establishment of the institute, I was working in the mayor's cabinet. And when we decided to go forward with the development through institute, I moved from the mayor's cabinet to the institute, where I'm still working as a consultant. We were able to, as already mentioned, through governance, to develop the frameworks for our work. And besides creating the strategy, we also created, together with the utility companies, action plan, which includes 20 identified projects from where we actually get our ideas for the project participation. So we are currently finishing urban innovative action project called Urban Soil for Food, where we are using bio-waste and soil from construction work to create the fertile soil. In the Cinderella project, we are testing solutions on the construction waste, and we are building a house out of the construction waste. In other projects, we are testing digital solutions for the waste management. We are preparing the strategy for all kinds of water use in the city, which includes also water from the wastewater facilities, clearing facilities, and collection of the rainwater in the city. And just recently, we were able to get approved Horizon project on the air quality. So we are also moving into that direction. We started also to do some education. So we are mentoring some of the activities in the high schools in Slovenia on the field of circular economy. And we are doing some lectures for the local stakeholders whenever necessary. The projects, I already talked about it, but as you can see here, we are collaborating either with the municipality, as in project Interreg Alpine Space Green Cycle, or with the other utility companies on different projects. So this is not just that we are developing, but we are also co-working on implementation of these projects through different initiatives. So you can see from Interreg Europe, Central Europe, Alpine Space, Horizon, Urban Innovative Action, DEAR program. We are also active with EIT raw materials, testing some more specific solutions. And we will continue to do so. We are also open for the international cooperations to do this, and our development is going quite well. Maybe just to make a point, we are not financed by the city budget, so we are not getting any money on the, let's say, annual basis from the city budget. We are self-financing through the projects and through our experts or otherwise on the market. So the model is now completely financially sustainable. And in April this year, we will have 4 years of existence. So we kind of already passed this first stage where it could be a bit critical, but now we established this, everything is working fine. We moved from 2 employees to 5 employees, but we also have support of the utility companies developers. And based on our work, municipality decided last year to form the umbrella company for all the utilities in the city, so public holding, where all our 5 + 1 utility companies are now in. So our work actually proved quite valuable for the city. We are developing some solutions, but what we realized is only working together can bring results in circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kos. Let's go back to the good practices to design innovation policies for a few minutes, because we want to share the example of the region of Central Macedonia. And it will be introduced by Mr. Ioannis Spandos, representative from Regional Development Fund of Region of Central Macedonia. Mr. Spandos will introduce us to their strategies to monitoring, evaluating, and designing smart specialization strategies. Mr. Spandos, good morning, whenever you are ready.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, quite well.
Okay. Please give me one moment, please.
Of course.
Can you hear me? Can you see the presentation? I opened it. I did everything. Okay, give me one moment, please. Now? Now? Please forgive me, but today I feel the high fever. Is there any other presenter? So,
No worries, Mr. Spendos. We can hear you perfectly. What do you need? Maybe just to share your presentation, or because you can start whenever you want explaining your example.
I'm sorry, I'm confused now.
Okay, no worries, Mr. Spandos. What we are going to do, just to be sure that we have a good connection, is just to disconnect for a few seconds, having ready your presentation and your video and audio, of course, and then we will keep you back with all of us, okay? Just to remember that we are talking about these good practices to design innovation policies. We will be in a very few seconds with Mr.
Now, did you see anything? Now, do you see my presentation?
No, not now. But no worries, because we will wait for you and for your presentation. We wanna see your example here in the region of Central Macedonia. So no worries, Mr. Spandos, because. Or Mr. Spandos, what we are going to do, if you don't mind, is just having the break right now. So
yes,
we will give you 5 minutes rest, just maybe to strain your legs, to grab a coffee, or to take a walk at home, and then we will go back with you and all the presentation, right? So for all the audience, see you in next 5 minutes. Take your time and see you then. Thank you very much. Welcome again to this final event of HIGER. Remember, this year called Getting HIGER with Innovation. And we want to continue, remember, with the good practices to design innovation policies. And now it's the turn to Mr. Ioannis Spandos from Regional Development Fund of Central Macedonia. Mr. Spandos will introduce us to their strategies to monitoring, evaluating, and designing smart specialization strategies. So, Mr. Spandos, we know that just due to technical problems we cannot see you, but for sure we can hear you and we can see your presentation. So, it's your time. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Please forgive me, but today I have high fever, so I made an effort to participate in the event. In our case, we achieved to influence the selected policy instrument, the invested priority 1B for us, especially by enhancing public-private collaborations and actively involving stakeholders in the implementation of activities related to entrepreneurial discovery process and risk-free within the one-stop liaison office concept, the newly established mechanism in the region of Central Macedonia. As I said in one event that made in Brussels for this mechanism, I said that probably it is one mechanism, the one-stop shop is related to risk-free mainly. So this is our effort. This is our effort to establish a one-stop liaison office concerning risk-free. I will take after the influence of the policy instrument, we elaborated the action plan with some actions to enhance this functionality. The action 1.1 was EDP pilot tests. More specifically, 3 EDP workshops when calls launched with the 15 entities involved in setting up collaborative innovation projects. The first event was the first networking workshop online one-stop liaison office with the innovation bodies of the region of Central Macedonia. This event took place in 27th of January 2020 with 9 participants from research and academic centers of the region. The purpose of the EDP workshop was to acquaint the stakeholders of the research ecosystem with one-stop liaison office, to explore the methodology followed by each body separately for the data collections assessed to the risk-free strategies monitoring. This is one photo from the event. The second EDP meeting was, the title was Innovation Vouchers for SMEs of the region of Central Macedonia. It took place the 13th of February 2020 with 64 participants. The aim of the EDP event was to network companies with innovation stakeholders to get acquainted, to exchange ideas, and to explore collaboration between them. You can see some photos from this event. And the third EDP workshop, with the title Design the Risk-Free 2021-2027, it took place in 12th of January 2021 with 5 participants. The purpose of the EDP workshop was to gather information regarding the maturity of the innovation ecosystem in order SCM, the region of Central Macedonia, to map and boost its ability to design and implement the risk-free strategy of the period 2021-2027. Action 1.2 of our action plan was EDP digital platform supporting workshops with digital consultation with 15 entities involved in setting up collaborative innovation projects. I don't have the results of this EDP digital platform workshops, but I'll put them in our policy instrument improvement. Action 2.1 was a risk-free monitoring network. A list of relevant stakeholders have been prepared and the stakeholders have been informed. Action 2.2 of our action plan was risk-free monitoring network workshops. Ran a two-round discussion on a simple network methodology, engaged 10 stakeholders for the monitoring difficulties. The first one was consultation of the establishment of a regional digital innovation hub in the region of Central Macedonia. It took place of the 9th of July 2020 with 17 participants. The purpose was to gather information from the innovation ecosystem to map its ability for designing and implementing a digital transformation strategy, mainly in the private sector, but also in the public sector. The progress of mapping and evaluating the ecosystem allows the monitoring of the regional risk strategy. Here you can see a picture from this event. Action 2.3 of the action plan was a risk-free monitoring network methodology, structure cooperation for a long-term engagement on monitoring. This has been done and it's all set. And the last one we had in our action plan, action 3.1, cross-border regions mapping, 3.2, action 3.2, cross-border regions targeting, and action 3.3, cross-border collaboration workshop, and action 3.4, cross-border collaboration map. Unfortunately, these actions were not implemented because of the great difficulties that we faced due to the coronavirus crisis. As a monitoring for these actions, for actions 1.1 and 1.2, a summary report was developed in order to inform the managing authority on the whole procedure results. And the same has been done for actions 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. This is our presentation, but I want to tell you that we have done the best of our efforts, and for sure we have implemented the policy instrument. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spandos. It was a pleasure having you here. And let's move forward to the final part of this event. Now it's time for the roundtable discussion around how foster innovation investment. This roundtable will be moderated by Mr. Natalino Barbizzi, representative of the March region. And it will count with the presence of Mr. Daniele Antinarella, Office Manager for strengthening the collaboration between the production system and the research system in the Abruzzo region. It will count as well with Mr. Sigitas Besagirskas, President at Vilnius Industry and Business Association. Professor Nikolaos Komninos, researcher at Urban and Regional Innovation Research Uranio, and Mr. Xavier Valvé, Head of Tech Transfer Office of Autonomous University of Barcelona. So welcome to everyone, and very happy to have you here. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning to everybody. Thank you for the invitation to moderate this roundtable. The focus is to exchange views on ways to foster cooperation between business and science, as well as to discuss strategies to stimulate private and public investment and into innovation, with focus on sustainability. The key words for this new programming period for European programs. I want to start with my colleagues from Abruzzo region, Mr. Daniele Antinarella, and I have two questions to put in the table. The first one is which action could be taken on governmental level in respect to boosting competitiveness and innovation? And the second one, how to promote the stakeholder engagement in smart specialization strategies in sustainable smart specialization strategies at regional level. I mean. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hello from Abruzzo. As you can probably see, I'm in my place. I'm not in the office due to the pandemic restriction, unfortunately. But I'm very happy to join to this roundtable discussion. Let's say that the two questions can be summed up in one complete answer. In the sense that the key point we tested in the previous programming period, and now we are implementing now in this new 2001-2027 period, is the way to implement the entrepreneurial discovery process. Meaning that in this new EDP, we are starting in this weeks, involving directly the enterprises at different level, small, medium, and also large enterprises, asking them directly which are the developing plan for the next 2-3 years. In this sense, we are trying to focus on this plan and try to set all the resources we have from the programming period, and even for the new EU instrument, national and European, aiming them to these priorities. So it's really is operational priority settings. In this sense, we divided our productive system in 5 technological domains, and we are having separated a focus group for each one of these. These domains are automotive, ICT, space, agri-food, life science, and model design. We selected a number of about 500 enterprises, so let's say more or less 100 for each domain, and we are starting meeting them virtually, and trying to get from directly from the entrepreneur the developing direction they are going to take in the next months. This is what we are doing right now as managing authority of EU Fund.
Okay, thank you for your reply. And now I want to put on the table 2 questions also for Mr. Sigitas Bisarchikas. Sorry for
that's correct.
Thank you. Sorry, President Vilnius Industry and Business Association from Lithuania. The 2 questions are: first one, how can we attract companies to invest in knowledge, technology, and innovation, and sustainability? The second one is, what is the role of the cluster in driving innovation in this new programming period? Thank you.
Okay. So actually, I say at first maybe I'll say some words about myself. I work as an investor, and actually I invest in the pre-seed and seed stage of engineering companies. My business is science. Everything what I earn, what I invest is based on science. I don't invest to the cheer factory and so on. I invest only to the new ideas, new challenges, new solutions, and so on. And so we're rising it, starting from the satellites with piezo engines and ending with gliders factory, how to say, I think the best gliders factory in the world. So, and actually, every time we have the same challenges, and the problems do not change maybe for a long time, maybe for 10 years. I spoke the same thing 10 years ago in the European Commission, and I think I will say the same thing 10 years later, so maybe in the same project and so on. First problem is that research centers are now funded by the purpose or by the goals, which de facto the companies don't need. So it's a simple system to participate in project, to receive funding, solemnly present results, with big conferences and so on, and through everything in the science trash. It's you can make it a very good thing as a scientist, but business usually don't need this results. Second problem is, which arises from the first problem, is that researchers tend to specialize in preparing the right documents to ensure steady cash flows rather than achieving real results. They work for projects, to get money, but not to achieve results which you can implement in practice. And third big problem, maybe it's specific just for Lithuania, is that in Lithuania has been established a lot of organization with a main goal to marry, let's say, to marry business and scientists. But except the Lithuanian Innovation Center, which is really listed in Lithuania as, I don't know, maybe as Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Pepe, it's like a star organization. Other organizations just demonstrate very big incompetence and usually request very, very strange things. For example, after consultation of 1 hour, they ask to sign the documents that the company has been consulted for 5 days, and company is very, very satisfied. So, and usually, as I said, the problem is that research centers, universities, actually don't care about real business, real innovation, and so on. And what do companies? Companies can attract some scientists from universities, just not how to say, attract a person, as a physical person, not as a legal entity. So, or just do innovation by themselves, step by step, but it's very, very small evolution. It's you can not do revolution as I do in Silicon Valley, as I do in other part of the world, especially in California. But we how to say, we just have to follow what the Americans do, or even for what South Korea do, and so on. Europe is sinking in this process, and so we're running slower and slower. So it's a big problem. About second questions about clusterization. clusterization by itself is, I think it's good idea, but usually we use clusters or even international clusters. For example, our associations participate in many activities related to clusters. But when we talk with partners from other countries, main goal is not to create a value chain and create something real, but how to attract money. How to attract money, to get money, and after to think what to do good with this money, but not to do in the first step with attraction money, because what European Commission want to do and what the companies want to do is very, very different. We don't talk about Lithuania. Just we can say, okay, Lithuania is not the most advanced country in R&D, but we talk about such countries as Germany, as Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Finland, so North Italy, so as strong countries in innovation. So, and I hope that something can change, but so actually I don't believe. Maybe you remember old movie X-Files with Mulder, and I remember very good poster with UFO aircraft and with writing, I want to believe. I want to believe in innovation. I want to believe in innovation support, but actually in my head, I don't believe in real support for the funding. All support, all funding really go to the research innovation and go to the papers, to papers which is not for business. Papers is just for science by itself. Sorry for such a pessimistic speech, but so it's my point of view.
Thank you very much for your comments. It's very interesting to know your point of view. Now I want to make two questions to Mr. Javier Valvé, head of the Tech Transfer Office of Autonomous University of Barcelona, and related with the following two questions. How can we work to promote an innovation-led development of cities and regions? And how can we consider a sustainability approach on innovation process? The second question, what makes industry scientific institution collaboration succeed? And at the same with look on sustainability process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and good morning from Barcelona, and thank you for inviting me and letting me collaborate in the session. I know we are behind the schedule, so I'll try to be as succinct as possible. So just to answer your questions, I think that it's important to understand that our view on technology transfer and industry collaboration. At least for our university, we understand technology transfer as a means for making an impact on society. So for us, that's the main mission. Obviously, there are some byproducts like making some money, which is important from technology transfer, especially in an environment which is very competitive and universities are struggling to get enough funding for doing research. But in my opinion, money and making money is not the main objective of technology transfer and collaboration with companies. Our mission, especially for a university as ours, which is a public university, is to help society and to make impact in society, so that society and companies can be more innovative, so more competitive, can promote job creation and so on. So paying taxes and so on. So if we understand technology transfer as such, as a process for promoting innovation, our interest is to not to sell technologies as such. I mean, it's not a process of selling our knowledge to companies, but to collaborate, to engage with companies so that our knowledge is implemented into products or services that help society. So with this mission in mind, our objective is to establish like a long-term collaborations with companies, especially those companies which are in a close geographical proximity, so that we have kind of a matching between what we do and what they do, and also trying to raise awareness of importance of technology transfer and innovation. For example, we know that something that it's now, there are several papers on this issue, that companies and also public institutions tend to do research on things that are already public and already researched by others. So in order to prevent that and be more effective, we try to collaborate with companies so that we increase the knowledge of, for example, what's there. I mean, in a sense of what other people are innovating, are doing, are researching. For example, helping companies in programs of business intelligence, competitive intelligence, knowing what other people are doing, what are the tendencies, so that in some way trying to increase or change mentality of companies in terms of innovation and how to innovate and do it in a more efficient way. And in this process, they start collaborating with us, and we work together to generate this kind of collaboration that's going to be useful for creating new products or services, right? In other sense, we're doing other things in order to succeed to increase this kind of collaboration. For example, working here at university from the point of view of challenges. I mean, we ask companies which challenges they have, so that we can try to give or probably give some insight on those challenges from our perspective, our researchers, and try to do this matching. In this sense, for example, we have created an initiative called Hub B30, which is an initiative in which companies, town councils, university, and other research sectors are collaborating in order to establish kind of network of collaboration, proposing challenges, and trying to solve those challenges. The key idea behind this initiative and probably is to try to establish a close relationship between university and companies, so that we can just establish long-term alliances in terms of innovation and knowledge dissemination.
Thank you for your comments, and now it's the turn of Professor Nikolaos Komminos from Urban Regional Innovation Research, Oureniu from Greece, and I have two questions. And can you give, the first one is, can you give us some details regarding smart specialization strategy in the new programming period 2021-2027 related with the governance and monitoring and evaluation process? The second question is, do you think that the role of universities and research center will change in the next period, mainly related with the new sustainable approach?
Good morning. Thank you, Natalina, for these questions. As you said, I work in a university laboratory in the field of urban and regional innovation. And for the last couple of years, we work with the European Commission about the new programming period and what appears to be the good governance of smart specialization from 2021 to 2027. And I would like to present the three main ideas which come out of this work. I will share my screen to show you a few slides which is on this topic. I hope that you can see the slides. Okay, good.
Yes.
While the ex-ante conditionality for the current period, 2014-2020, was to that regions or member states should have a smart specialization strategy, this conditionality becomes much more elaborated, and the Commission has defined 7 enabling conditions for the next programming period. And you may see those 7 conditions on the screen. The first one is somehow about the context, focusing on innovation bottlenecks. There are 3 which relate to the governance of smart specialization. Then there are other 3 which focus on the objectives in different fields of policy. So I will present 3 main ideas for the middle group of those enabling conditions related to governance. The first one is that in order to have a good management, a good governance of the strategy, we need a much more complex management system which include at least 3 levels. And those 3 levels are separate from each other. The first one is the strategy design, in which the management should be based on a triple or quadruple helix collaboration to go on through all the stages of the strategy, from the context, vision, strategy, elaboration, and action plan. The second should focus on implementation. This is mainly the work of the management authorities, programming authorities, to define the funding rules and the state debt mechanism. And the third one is about monitoring and evaluation, which should be done by independent authority from the previous 2, let's say, management organizations. So for the management, we need a much more complex, having at least each one of it's independent from the other. A very important field in this area is consultation, collaboration with the stakeholders. And we have developed a platform with about 30 online applications. You may see the link on the screen, which facilitate collaboration and stakeholders engagement throughout the stages of the strategy. Now, the second idea is about the functioning EDP. And we know that EDP is the core of a smart specialization strategy, and it is to bring together entrepreneurial actors from the companies and the universities as well, and to set together priorities for intervention. So we have here a double problem, which are the problem of prioritization, to define the priorities. And the second one is, within the priorities to be defined, we have to find actions that have somehow a a cohesion dimension, that actions from which all the partners of an industry group or an ecosystem should benefit. And we have a number of barriers to this, because we don't have a theory to guide us, which are the best, let's say, priorities for diversification. And the second, we have also weaknesses in the field of methodology concerning the best categories to work in EDP, whether it should be industry or science categories, or the level of detail, the level of granularity. So with respect to those, the problems, the two problems of the EDP and also the barriers that we have, we elaborated a methodology at the statistical level of NACE 3-digit, which goes on to a sort of EDP elaboration without excluding a priori in advance any industry. And we have run a number of pilots, one in Greece and one in Cyprus, in which we try to define the industry groups. So we have overall statistically 272 industry groups, and we defined a smaller number of them, focusing on the most important in terms of size and specialization. And the methodology we propose include 3 stages. First, to decide to define the most important industry groups, and then to coordinate the allocation of EDPs, because there is no capability of prediction to cover a large number of industries. We have a sort of a need of coordination between the regions in order to cover all possible areas. In the right part of the slide, you may see the 51 industry groups that we defined as that should be assessed for EDP increase, for which the green are for manufacturing and the yellow, the brown is for services. And then within those areas, to try to identify platforms from which all the platforms, either for product development or for energy or digital support or export, from which a large number of companies could be benefit. So the EDP and the priority should define at the end of this 3 stages methodology. And the last idea is about monitoring and evaluation. And here we need a good informational system which will be able to combine and to correlate 2 types of indicators that we have. Output indicators that derive from the actions, the smart specialization strategy actions, and result indicators that concern the regional performance. And it is important to correlate the output and the result indicators in order to identify the actions that are most have the higher impact, and also actions that are somehow failure. So through this correlation between output and result indicators, we may focus on the most effective actions. So this section of work that can be adapted to every regional context within the, let's say, the specificities of this context. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikos. Then thank you to all the speakers for their contribution. That I think that the keywords for our meeting will be it's a collaboration between the several sector of the innovation world. Public sector, private sector, research and academic sector, citizen, and the sustainability is is the key to promote innovation in the new programming period. Thank you, and I don't know if there are questions for our panelists.
Sorry, Natalino, if it's possible, I had just a very brief comment on what Professor Nicolaus has been presented just before. May I go on?
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting what we have seen, and the core, I totally agree that the core business of the smart specialization strategy is the entrepreneurial discovery process. And we are now proceeding in this way as a region. We shared some criteria, trying to identify a number of enterprises to be linked as soon as possible. And these criteria are enterprises that have been involved in Horizon project, enterprises that have been involved in research national projects, enterprises that have been involved in the regional innovation project, then enterprises that invest more than 3% of their own budget in research in the last 2 years, and enterprises that can deposit research at the EPO in the last 2 years. Just trying to identify the most innovation-oriented enterprises we have here. And now we are trying to get them involved in our process. This is what we are trying to do. It's not easy. It's not easy also to explain to the political level, to the decision maker, but it's very effective. And the other thing is that I'm very impressed by the governance process you show, but as a public administration, it seemed to me a bit complicated. What do you think about this?
Thank you, Daniel, for both comments are quite relevant. I will start from the second one. Here, the idea of the management is simple, that we need different type of organizations for the design, for the implementation, and for the evaluation. To make it very simple for the assessment and evaluation, the organization responsible should be independent from the previous one, because there is no reason to have the same organization implementing and evaluating. So this is something very easy. So more complex is the separation between design and implementation. But while implementation, it is mainly a business of the state, with operational programs and the funding agency and the state aid rules, etc. The design, it is a question of the business and academic community as well. It doesn't mean that the state or the managing authorities will not participate in the design, but it will not be, let's say, the design closed into the horizon of the managing authorities. And this is the meaning of having the triple helix or quadruple helix with the society as well, NGOs, other organizations, to be part of the design process. Because in the design, as you mentioned in the first part of your question, you have to take into account a large amount of data. I think that this is a good place for the universities and the research centers to have this role and provide all the landscape of the possible options and facilitate the decision from the participating companies. Okay. Now, in the first part of your question, you raised another aspect of what is important, and I understood from what you said that you consider as important those organizations, companies, laboratories, other types of organizations who have already a high level of innovation activity. That's very good, and you have to do it. But also, there is a counter argument that says that smart specialization, it is a cohesion policy, which means that it's not should be closed into the top, the most important, the most active, the most innovative, but also take into account something which is more traditional and looking into ways to make them move forward. So I think that you need to have a balance, but I agree that it is correct to have the wider possible field of data from different perspectives and make a selection out of this data.
Okay, thank you. So a triple or quadruple helix, not only for implementation, but even for designing it.
For the design, yes, it's important. Because it is more important for the design than for the implementation. Because in the implementation, I think that the managing authorities know their business very well. So very little things to other organizations to add on this. They have experience, they have the tools, they have the information system, so on. They're very competent on this. But on the contrary, what regards the design, then, which is what are the trends in the market, what are the technologies which maybe are promising in the coming years. These are knowledge and learning that should be given from the business and academic community.
Thank you for the last comments and the last question. It's very interesting to share this new approach. And I don't know if there are other questions for our panelists or can we move at the end of the meeting?
Well, so thank you to all of you for this fruitful discussion. It was a pleasure having you here and sharing with you this time. Thank you again. Thank you very much. And well, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this HIGER event. It has been an intense online conference, and I think we all are now aware of how important is the exchange of experience between regions to improve smart specialization policies. So, one more time, thank you all for your time. Thank you all for being here. Hope to see you next HIGER event edition. And of course, have a nice afternoon. Goodbye.